Trump's tariffs are ruining Harley-Davidson.
Hold it. This is a good one.
Well, today I'm going to tell you whether there's any truth to that, or is it actually decisions that the motor company has made over, let's say, the past 5 years or even longer that have led to their eventual downfall. Now, the last thing I want you to think is that, oh, I want Harley to fail, and I've said this all along. I definitely don't want them to fail. I love Harley-Davidson as a brand, but let's make no mistake about it. They are definitely not going in the right direction with a lot of the moves that they're making. So I not only want to talk about the tariffs and how it affects the motor company, what I think the real reason is for their downfall, but what they could do right now to improve morale and the perception of the motor company. They could do that today. So I do want to offer a solution as well. And this is just my opinion. And of course, I want to hear yours. Leave it down below. Let's go ahead and jump right in. We got a lot to talk about with Harley-Davidson because it ain't just tariffs, but really quickly, I want to let you know I'm giving away a 2021 Street Glide to one of you. I've partnered back up with Fan of Them, who is a small veteran-owned business, in order to bring y'all the biggest giveaway we've ever done. An $18,000 motorcycle coming with a ton of amazing parts on there. Saddleman seat, Saddleman road sofa, Vance and Hines pipes, heavy breather, handlebar upgrade, a bunch of awesome things that you can keep in your saddlebags from a law-abiding biker. This bike is tricked out. Now, we work with Fan of Them because the time frame is shorter and we give away pretty awesome things. So instead of some of these giveaways, which are awesome, you might win a freaking fantastic motorcycle, right? But some of these other giveaways might be tens of thousands of entries. I'm not sure, but they're a lot, and they typically run them for a pretty long time. We keep our time frame shorter, a little bit more personal, and it gives y'all a real chance at winning something freaking awesome. So you only have until May 9th, midnight Pacific Standard Time, to enter this giveaway, and that process is super simple. One link in the description of this video takes you to Headshot Nation. That is our community that we've built through now the third giveaway, and this is a place where you can talk to other bikers, you can ask questions, you can ask me anything, you can give video ideas, early access, ad-free, and exclusive videos over there for y'all as well. So click the link, sign up to Headshot Nation. That also gets you the entry to win the motorcycle as well. Do that before May 9th for your chance to win a freaking awesome motorcycle, and you support myself at the same time. Good luck to every single one of you. So Harley-Davidson and the tariffs, right? They dealt with this the first time Trump was in office, and now they're dealing with it again. But remember that this has been like an ongoing issue, especially in countries like India, for decades. I read something interesting talking about India and their trade policies. They've been so self-absorbed, and they have trust issues, basically, with other countries and trading with other countries. And they went from like 2.4% exports in 1948 to like 0.5% in the early 90s. Now, it was only in the later 90s when they started to eventually open up their exports to the rest of the world, but they've been very harsh to people like Harley-Davidson, for instance, where we get bikes from India, right? 2.4% tariffs on them. Okay. Now, one time, India was actually charging Harley-Davidson 100% tariffs on their motorcycles. I think it was 600 cc's and greater, whatever. Basically, every single Harley-Davidson that's out there. Now, in 2018, they dropped the number from 100 to 50. Right? That's still a lot, let's just be honest. But now they're kind of doing like these preliminary drops because of some of the tariffs and policies that have now gone into place. India has tried to be ahead of the curve now and be more kind of welcoming and warm to the ideas that Trump is kind of passing along. And I believe that's in hopes that they won't be hit with massive tariffs as well. But they have not been fair to Harley-Davidson or American companies, an American company, for a really long time. So I think now they've dropped it. If they're 1,600 cc's and under, then I think they're 40% tariffs. Now, if they're 1,600 cc's and larger, it's 30% tariffs. But this caused Harley to have to do something that I think a lot of people understand, because even though they are an American brand and this is where they were built, this is where they should stay, my belief is any bike sold in the United States should be built in the United States when it comes to Harley-Davidson. I digress. We already know about that situation. But they built a plant in Thailand. I think they had a plant in India too that's closed now at this point. But that Thailand plant, and I guess Thailand in general, they're a little bit friendlier with India, or India views them in a more favorable fashion. And so bikes built in Thailand are now shipped to India. And India is a huge market. I would understand why any brand, especially one that is trying to go global like Harley Davidson has been doing, would want a piece of that market. They sold something like 18, maybe it was 16 or 18 million motorcycles last year alone. It accounted for like 90% of the vehicle sales in India. I mean, it is just a crazy market. And Harley was like, hey, we sold 33,000 bikes over there. That's actually pretty good for us, you know? So I understand why they would want to get a piece of that market for sure, because it's just massive. I mean, it's way bigger than the American market. But make no mistake about it, that's not going to impact Harley Davidson like a lot of people think. It'll have some impact, but the bigger impact from tariffs is going to be, of course, the EU. And that's why their CFO, Jonathan Root, actually went and had that congressional hearing with the subcommittee, basically saying like, look, and this just blows my mind, they have motorcycles over there, just a Road Glide, right, that sells here for $28,000. And we're complaining about it because, like, come on, dude. Well, that bike sells for $77,000 in Denmark. And with the luxury tax and the retaliatory tariffs that the EU is imposing on companies like Harley Davidson, that $77,000 motorcycle will become a $124,000 bike. I couldn't even imagine what the CVO RR would be. It's like $200,000 essentially, or more, for that motorcycle in Denmark. It's just absolutely nuts. So that part of it, again, I understand. Lower market share there, but they're already having trouble selling bikes because of the expense. And this is where part of the problem starts to come up for Harley Davidson. We all know it, and I think the motor company may be coming around to this idea now, finally, but it is the expense. And that's not just because of tariffs. Trump's goal here is to save American companies. And let's just be honest, this strategy kept Harley Davidson alive in the 80s when Ronald Reagan did it to protect Harley Davidson from all of the Japanese imports that were coming into the country. And whether you agree or disagree with that decision, it literally saved Harley Davidson back then. And so since the United States has been taken advantage of for so long when it comes to what we charge for things coming in compared to what other countries charge us for exporting, you start to kind of see why Trump and his tariffs, he's so attached to this idea to level the playing field, essentially. And when he said that we're being nicer with these tariffs than any country has ever been to us, or a lot of countries, he's not kidding. When you're looking at these types of numbers on motorcycles, and that's what we're focused on in this video, you kind of see like, man, if we're going to start charging 30% tariffs, well, that actually doesn't seem too bad. And again, the idea is to save American companies and have companies, right, build things in America. But tariffs aren't even the main issue that Harley Davidson has dealt with. This has been kind of a culture shift, and you've seen it in a variety of different ways, and one of those being the price of the motorcycles. When they got rid of the Street Series, okay, who really likes the Street Series? Maybe some people did, right? Then they get rid of the Sportster Series, and they're like, oh, well, to rebuild that motor, it would take too much in order for us to keep up with EPA. Well, the Nightsters, they're not really filling that gap. Now, recently, Harley Davidson did drop the price of the Nightsters, which are built in Thailand, by the way, to right under $10,000. I thought that was a good move. But one of the biggest things that has hurt them more than anything, in my opinion, is them getting rid of entry-level motorcycles. Remember, for the past couple of years, the cheapest bike you could buy from Harley has been like $13,000. And I'll say it once, I'll say it again, young people don't have the type of expendable income that maybe somebody like our parents did. They have a lot more on their plate, and it basically starts for a lot of these kids, unfortunately, at the age of 18, where they're signing tens of thousands of dollars of loans that they don't realize is going to take decades and decades and decades to pay off. Some people will unfortunately pass away before they ever pay off a student loan. And the price of school is just astronomical. This is one of those things that I compare to like the medical field, where they'll charge you, $100 for a Tylenol or whatever it is. It's this unchecked system that essentially allows them, between insurance companies and big pharma and what they charge other countries compared to what they charge the United States. It's that kind of industry, right? Where things have just exponentially gone up and nobody questions it because it's like, well, hell, what else are you gonna do? Point is, a lot of young people have a lot more on their plate now. So for the people that are looking at motorcycles that are interested in this, you definitely want them to be able to have some kind of entry-level bike to attach themselves to. That doesn't mean that you offer them something that looks totally different than every other Harley, which is kind of part of the street issue, I think, or the street series, where if you go to Indian and you look at their Scouts, it's like, oh man, this is a nice American cruiser, right? You look at something, the Nightster's close, but you look at something like the Sportster S and people are, it just doesn't look appealing. I'm not saying they have to make all of their bikes look the same, but what I am saying is they have to have entry-level bikes, and to get people in the door, young people, if you want to capture more of those people, if that is what they're going to hedge their bets on, that young people are going to save Harley Davidson, then you better have some bikes available to them. And again, I'll use the example of Honda and what they do. I guess we could go from the Grom to the Rebel to the CBRs to even the Gullwings. It's kind of pretty incredible, but they have something for everybody. The other problem is the culture shift at Harley, where the amount of motorcycles has always been a big deal, right? The more people you sell motorcycles to, the more riders you're bringing in. It just kind of makes sense. Well, their current CEO, Jochen Zeitz, cares more about the money per unit. So he doesn't care if they sell less motorcycles as long as they're making more on each motorcycle that they actually sell. This is just one part of it. And so you've seen this increase where, correct me, when was the last time you guys saw a $23,000 Street Glide, for instance, right? We used to have these electric glides, where you could get into a bagger for like 20 grand. Now, the cheapest road glide and the cheapest street glide you're going to find is $28,000. Yes, they come with a lot of tech. A lot of that stuff I like and I appreciate, blah, 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 blah. They did a great job last year of kind of cutting the price down a little bit, but the point remains that the price has still steadily gone up with the motor company. And so some people kind of roll their eyes and they're like, oh, well, prices of course are going to go up. But if you look at the sentiment towards Harley Davidson, one of the most common things you will see on any video, and I'm not saying this is how you run a company, but you do have to understand who your people are. And one thing you'll see consistently, Harley is pricing themselves out of the market. They are becoming more of a luxury brand, more of a kind of, rub brand, rich urban biker type of thing, right? Where you got to have a lot of money to get into a Harley Davidson bagger, which is like their core product still. And so you're raising the cost to get into these motorcycles. I talked about it with the Softails this year. The cheapest Softail you can buy is $17,000 now. It just seems like their inflation rate is a little bit quicker than everybody else around them for some reason. I know Harleys have been expensive, but that doesn't change the cost that they are still going up, and really they're pricing themselves out a lot more than maybe what some other companies are doing. Even though you buy Indians, you buy Hondas, they're all kind of expensive when you're looking at these big baggers. The perception is that Harley Davidson is pricing themselves out of the market. It's almost like it's turned into more of an elite thing. And look, I love Harley Davidson, and there's some motorcycles out there that I'm not a huge fan of, that I've let my opinion be known, right? But still, I don't know if Harley Davidson has just kind of lost their way with blue-collar workers, but that's kind of what it seems like. They're just not appealing to blue-collar workers anymore because of the price and how expensive they've got. And let's be honest, when you think about Harley Davidson and the people that have ridden their bikes since after World War II, what image comes to your mind? It might be something like Sons of Anarchy or Easy Rider or whatever, but the point was they've always had expensive bikes, but they on the same token, have always had bikes that pretty much everybody could afford and could enjoy as well. So losing their identity with their core people, in my opinion, has been one of the biggest detriments to the motor company. And we saw that last year with some of their DEI policies that they just kind of snuck in there, right? I mean, some people knew about it, but this only was brought to everybody's attention because of Robbie Starbuck. Let's just be honest. It was like this slow progression where you see Jochen Zeitz get on the board in 2007, and then, you know, he takes over as CEO in 2020, and electric vehicles now, right? And the prices have gone up, and they want to make more per motorcycle. They don't care about selling, you know, they do care about selling a lot of bikes, but as long as they're making more money per bike, then that's what they care about. And when that information came out, it really rubbed a lot of bikers the wrong way. And people still kind of have that in their mind when it comes to Harley Davidson. You can go under anybody's video when they're talking about Harley and the downfall of Harley and whatever, and you can still see people talk about the company being woke. It's really hard to shake that perception when you still have the same guy in power that helped initiate some of these programs in the first place. And I think that's a big problem. And I've talked about that even with Elon Musk, right? There was a rumor going around, hey, Elon Musk should take over Harley because you won't see protesters messing with Harley Davidsons at a biker event, right? Like they do with Teslas and all that kind of stuff. That was the point. But, you know, even somebody like Elon Musk, I think, understands Harley Davidson better than their current CEO. At the end of the day, I think it's almost like they've lost their identity, and they're kind of like in this crisis mode where they're now trying to figure out, who are we? Who are we going to be? And I don't think they're going out of business anytime soon, but I think over the next 5 years especially, you're going to see Harley Davidson either as a company that gets somebody in there that will return to their roots and appeal to their core audience once again, or a brand that you will hardly recognize as being an American icon and really probably just a shell of what it used to be. Harley is one of those unique brands that is steeped in American culture, and while they do have to innovate, and I'm not saying they don't, they have to innovate, they still have to hold firm to those American values if they want to survive. And that's just my opinion. And so there you go. It's not just tariffs, right, that are affecting Harley Davidson. It's on a much deeper level. That's just my opinion, and of course I'd love to hear yours. Let me know what you think down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one, and as always, hold them down.